Okay, we are now and broad scope ones, but also ones like this one where we really drill down into a single neighborhood in the community that's encountering certain issues and really speak to those issues for that neighborhood. This one again is for the Rollingwood Village area. So if you live out of Smoketown, you just down as well as the Prince William County PD, Neighborhood Services, and the flow of show. Go to each person so they can tell in this area about folks to answer your questions. And looks like I might be having some on my video and hopefully address some of those. So again, Occoquan anybody district. So there will be a recording of this town hall. So if you missed it, or you have some friends and family that wanted to tune in and wanted to participate but didn't get a chance, so that was we have
Hi, I'm Kathy Holtzlander. Thank you, Supervisor Boddye and Jason, for inviting us to participate in your town hall this evening. I'm the neighborhood coordinator for Prince William County. I'm part of Neighborhood Services, which is a division of the Public Works Department for Prince William. We cover educational outreach for our residents in regards to property code enforcement, helping to preserve the health, welfare, and safety of neighborhoods throughout the county. We also oversee the county's landscaping program, as well as litter control. We have a 9-man crew or 9-person crew that focuses on the main roads throughout Prince William, not necessarily the neighborhoods, but we'll be able to speak with in more detail about that later. So thank you so much for inviting me to your meeting.
I think I'm next. I'm Lieutenant Sullivan with the Prince William County Police Department. I've been with the police department for over 22 years. We do all public safety services that we do. You're part of the Central District. The Central District is encompassing about a third of the Prince William County that goes from 95 all the way to, at the end of the Prince William County Parkway. We handle, from what it seems like, the conditions that people are complaining about in reference to tows, parking violations, and if people are illegal dumping. But thank you for inviting me.
Good evening. My name is Richard Wiseman. I'm with the Prince William County Traffic Safety Engineering Branch Manager. Our section of the county works with traffic safety engineering, parking, speeding, and those kind of things. or any transportation or traffic related on the streets and neighborhood streets county. Thank you.
I am Salah Salem. I work for Prince William County Department of Transportation. I'm the traffic safety engineer. I work with Richard, and much like his description, work on traffic safety issues. I'm a little new to the issues of Prince William County, but here to learn. And thank you for the invitation, so I can learn a little bit more about the issues in the community and how we can help.
Good evening. This is Alexandra Tulishka. I'm with Virginia Department of Transportation. I'm the Assistant Director for Transportation and Land Use, and we'll try to help answer any questions related to VDOT. Thank you for inviting me today.
My name is Scott McDonald. I'm with Public Works Solid Waste Division. And solid waste, we run the landfill and the compost facility on Ballsford Road, but we also enforce certain measures of the Chapter 22, which is the refuse ordinance, particularly the licensing of trash and recycling companies and recycling ordinances and that sort of thing. Thank you for letting me be a part of this.
Thank you for that. Did we go around the horn? I think we got everyone. Am I missing anyone? Okay. And can everyone hear me better now? I know we were having some issues with the lag. Okay. Good. That said, all of our speakers here, like I said, are our professional staff. We are here to answer your questions and address any issues you may have. We know there has been some, dumping issues, some parking issues in this area. So, the good, the bad, the ugly, whatever you want to bring to our attention and ask us about, we're here to answer your questions on how we can best address these issues. So without further ado, we'd like to open up for questions. And how we'll do this is as the questions are filtered over to us, I will ask the question aloud so everyone on the line and on the internet can hear us. And then we'll make sure to direct it to the proper professional. Thank you. I'm about to please. Okay, so let's see. The first question we have is someone saying that they believe their question may be police related. If we have the same vehicles trespassing on our private park, if they are not yet caught by the police, will getting license plate numbers assist in any way?
Yes, what we can do is we can take that information and we can find out who owns the vehicle. And then what we can do is give the information to the HOA president or whoever's in charge of the property at the time. And then they can go to the magistrate's office and get no trespassing paperwork.
Appreciate that. And to add to that a little bit, something that we are looking to fund in this year's fiscal year 2022 budget is a tax evader program, whereby if folks are caught sort of parking with out-of-state tags for long periods of time, and folks have a reason to believe that, you know, someone is just sort of there and they're not, they have no reason to not have in-state plates at some point, they would be able to call a hotline where they can report the place in question, and we're looking to make sure that we get that staffed up so folks can also look at addressing issues that way as well. Thank you, Officer Sullivan, for your answer as well. Our next question is, what is the county standing on cars that never move and are parked on the VDOT street?
If I can answer that one, if we get called out there, the vehicle's still out there and there's some violation of law, or it appears to us that it is a abandoned vehicle, we'll either ticket it with a parking ticket for whatever violation of law that we observe. Also, what we do is what's called a PD 22, and it's going to be a piece of paper about this size, but it will be bright orange, and we will attach it to the side of the vehicle, notifying them that the vehicle either has to be moved right away, but in most cases, we give them 10 days. So the vehicle has to be moved within 10 days, and we also, on our side, will be able to tell that the vehicle has been moved or not moved. And if the vehicle hasn't been moved in 10 days, but we generally give more time than that, in most cases, we generally give 30 days. If the vehicle is there after 30 days and we can show that the vehicle hasn't moved, we will then call a tow company, and the tow company will tow the vehicle. We do not receive any funds from the tow. That's between the owner of the vehicle and the tow company.
Thank you for that. Let's see, do we have more questions? So the follow-up question to that one is, if they're folks are asking if they should call the non-emergency police department number for those kinds of issues. They see a car that's been there for quite some time that may look like it's been abandoned, or if they see folks who have been trespassing and what have you. What numbers do they call to address those issues?
The non-emergency number is going to be 703-792-6500. In reference to parking violations, I know there's been some pre-questions about whether we actually respond to those. We do. They are in our priority. Just like any time of triage, it's going to be our least. It's going to be at the end of all of our other calls as time permits, but we do show up to every call that we get in reference to parking complaints. In fact, over the course of the last few years, I took the numbers, and generally it's about 95%. We give either a ticket or a tow to every parking violation that we've responded to on Bonnie, Burr, and Minion.
Thank you for that. Could you repeat that number one last time for everyone?
Sure, it's going to be 703-792-6500. And that phone is answered by the same people that answer 911. But if there are 911 calls, they will respond to those first, and then you may be put on hold. But it's the exact same people that answer those phone calls on the 6500 number are the same ones that answer the 911 calls. So if it's a parking violation, it's a non-emergency, please contact the non-emergency number.
Appreciate that. So our next question is in regards to overcrowding. So I imagine that means overcrowding of vehicles, because we had a lot of reports of people parking so far back along Burr Lane, for example, they go almost into Smoketown, things of that nature. So they want us to sort of address concerns regarding overcrowding of cars, how to report overcrowding, what the process looks like, et cetera. So if someone, for example, is illegally parked, like they're double parked or they park too far out from the designated parking lane, sort of how we go about addressing those issues as well.
Just like I said before, call the 792-6500. The call type will be prioritized as a parking violation, and we will get out there eventually. It just depends on what our call volume is and what type of calls we have. I would say it's rare that it's going to be that we show up in the first hour, but it could be, just depending on the nature of the call and what time of day and night, what other volume of calls there are. And if we see the violation, we will, like I said, ticket the violation. If we think it's an abandoned vehicle, then we'll start the process for the 10-day notice that the vehicle has to be moved. And I will say that we don't proactively look for parking violations. So if there are issues and people see them, call the 6500 number and we will respond to all of those. It may be in the middle of the night when you're asleep and you don't see us there, but the thing is we do respond to all the calls.
Sure. So the next question is overcrowding, but let's sort of zero in on home. I think that some folks have some concerns that there are homes in which there's more people living there than would normally be designated under code, and that obviously then bleeds out into traffic issues whereby you have a lot more vehicles parked than would normally be there because you have more folks living there than maybe the home was designed for. Are there ways for us to address that as well?
Good evening. This is Paul Lynch. I'm the chief of the Neighborhood Services Division. We, in my office, address overcrowding issues. Many times people look at the number of vehicles associated with an address and conclude that that's overcrowding. You might be right and you might not be right. The Neighborhood Services Division can be contacted at 703-792-7018. Option 1 connects you with our intake staff. For us to really get involved with overcrowding cases, we would really appreciate if we had some contact information to follow up with questions when you leave information. However, the veracity of your complaint will be improved greatly if you have real detailed information. How many people are coming and going? How are they coming and going from the house? Who are they, if you know who they are? What vehicles are associated with the occupant load in the house? If you have tag numbers, provide all that, because we have to do a tremendous amount of research to verify who might be living in the house. We know the square footage of the house from our assessments office. We also have to respect fair housing laws and federal laws. And the big challenge is getting access many times to talk to people, because people don't always want to have conversations with us. But the more information that we can obtain from the people that are reporting overcrowding, the more detail we have, the better chances we are going to be able to successfully work the case. Many times they're very large extended families, and families can live in houses in congregal settings unless it's excessively overcrowded. But we do have to always respect the federal laws that protect everybody. So we tread very lightly when we investigate these, because this is very serious, very personal type of enforcement. So many times we can't do everything that folks are wishing that we can do, but we certainly thoroughly investigate these cases, and we try to establish relationship patterns in the buildings. But many times figuring out what a family member is, it's very, very difficult. So we really try to make these cases based on math problems, square feet in the house, and the number of people in the houses. We also do not count children associated with the adults in the houses. So it's a very complicated puzzle. But 703-792-7018 is the way to contact us. talk to our intake staff with as much detail as you possibly can provide us.
I appreciate that, Mr. Lynch. Yeah, I would just quickly add to that, as he just said, you know, sometimes it's hard to sort of tell what folks are sort of there as part of the family, what folks may be visiting, you know, especially in the age of COVID. I would like to remind everyone to sort of be cognizant that you have more folks living with family members, you know, in sort of quarantine settings that might not normally do so, depending on where they normally live. So obviously we know that this particular neighborhood doesn't have a lot of parking, and you know, the lots fill up and the lanes fill up rather quickly, so it becomes quickly perceived that there's a lot of folks parked and, you know, accessing one building or another. But I would like to make sure folks are being very cognizant of that. The next question we have is in regards to trash and litter. They're basically asking if we can address the trash and litter concerns, especially on Burr Road. I know that neighborhood services have been helping our office out quite a bit with coordinating with the folks in the neighborhood in regards to that. So if they could speak to that, I would appreciate it.
Absolutely. This is Kathy Holtzlander, Neighborhood Coordinator. First, I'd like to give a huge kudos to the community members for working on this issue. Litter is unfortunately a systemic problem throughout the entire county. So, you know, the folks there in Rollingwood Village are not alone in this journey. So I had mentioned earlier, we do have a 9-person litter crew that goes out every day covering lane miles. That's boots on the ground, walking, picking up trash. And they pick up anywhere between, well, a lot of it's light trash. So it could be 60, 100 bags of just papers and plastic bottles and cans and things like that. So you're not alone in your desire to have a litter-free neighborhood. Unfortunately, the litter crew just doesn't have we just don't have the resources to devote to individual neighborhoods. We focus on the main roads. We actually augment VDOT's efforts. So main roads, Route 234, Prince William Parkway, Minnieville Road, Innovation, Route 28, the roads to the landfill. The crew could literally work that road every day of the week, and by the time they started from Monday to finished Friday, you wouldn't think they touched it. It's because it's that much trash. But on a positive note, let's talk about this community. I know several months ago we had met virtually and talked about trash, and we had folks get with our community partner, Keep Prince William Beautiful, which is an extension of what the litter crew does and is specifically designed to help neighborhoods like Rollingwood Village. And they, Public Works helps to fund that nonprofit organization. So they really rely on dedicated, you know, community advocates that are hardworking, that want to better their communities. So we partner you guys together, and it's my understanding that there was a massive cleanup just a couple months ago. I spoke with the director of KPWB, Alita Daniels, and her recommendation was that the community should come together at least once a quarter based on what she witnessed with the trash there along Burr Lane and into the wooded area. And so I would recommend that you continue on that course of action. Couple other options, folks may want to consider adopting that spot. That's an option. That is a program through KPWB. We have residents, you know, clean up the area. I think it's 4 times a year, and we could get a sign installed that, you know, point of pride for many communities that has your name on it, that you've adopted the spot, and shows that you're committed to the well-being of your community. In addition to that, every spring, usually through the fall, Neighborhood Services partners with Solid Waste, which is another division of Public Works, and we conduct what's called dumpster days. And so what we do is we bring a dumpster into the community in need, and we encourage them to, from a property code perspective, if somebody has outside storage issues, what we do is we encourage them to utilize that free dumpster that we put in the community and to get rid of their excess storage issues. And so that it helps them, we can close their case. They could just bring the convenience of having the dumpster there in the community that weekend, easily, readily available for them to discard their items. And we're partnering with Supervisor Boddye's office and his staff to do that actually on the 10th of April. So it's a great opportunity. They're very well received throughout the county. Many other neighborhoods would like to do the same. We don't necessarily go into HOA communities, but when a community has a continuing problem, we try to help identify those communities in most need and then work with them through the board staff's office. And so we're excited about partnering with you for that program, which will help. It's my understanding that the community management company or a couple years ago used to do a large item pickup in conjunction with their waste hauler. But then, and it was well received, and people would put their big items out to the curb and the waste hauler would come and take them away. Unfortunately, that program stopped, but people didn't stop putting their big items out to the curb. And so that's why we end up hearing the complaints of the couch that's been on this block for 3 weeks and nobody's taken care of it. So there could be a little bit of a communication issue. But oftentimes waste haulers are willing to work with HOAs and do things as a customer service type program in the community. You just have to have that dialogue with them, and then put that information out within the community to make sure those dates are secure, that people don't leave a couch out for 3 weeks. They only put it out for the day that collection is going to happen. So if you ever have any issues that you need some guidance, I'd be happy to talk to you. You can reach me at that same number, 703-792-7018, and I'd be happy to walk you through some of those things. But we really rely on dedicated volunteers in their communities to help police their neighborhoods from trash and litter.
Thank you for that, Kathy. And I'll go ahead and read that to sort of give you a second to take a breath. You gave us a lot of information there. And yeah, no, we did have that neighborhood cleanup back on the 12th of December. Definitely appreciate Keep Prince William Beautiful and your folks coming out to help us out with that and really coordinating as a community to get that done. And yeah, we have some other stuff coming down the pipe with that. But yeah, the next question, the follow-up there is, Kathy, if you could also touch upon the idea of the HOA setting up trash cans along Burr Lane, the pros and cons there, like you shared with Emily, and also could you share the VDOT phone number to report trash pickup as needed?
Absolutely. Thank you, Supervisor Boddye. The HOA has an opportunity to put a trash can there. However, experience has shown that if that trash can isn't monitored frequently, that oftentimes residents will use that for their personal waste hauling service. You might have witnessed some of those along the Route 1 corridor. PRTC installed trash cans at each covered bus station and or bus stop location, and because of the amounts of trash that was being ever present there, it's a matter of the community deciding if that's something they want to manage, because the litter crew won't come and empty that trash for them. So it's a possibility of keeping it there, where to station it to ensure the wind doesn't blow it down, critters don't get in it, kids knock them over. It's just all you have to walk through all those questions before you decide you want to put that there as a solution. Another thought was putting a no dumping sign. Depending on how the neighborhood feels about signage, you know, the community can install that, but from experience, no dumping signs does not prevent the dumping. So, and you can report trash concerns to VDOT. I'm going to have to look up the link and I could post it here in a minute. They have an online reporting tool where you can report everything from potholes to trash to dead animals. And they're very, very responsive. Or even if it came in through neighborhood services, we can connect them to VDOT. VDOT is the agency that normally maintains that roadway because it is a VDOT maintained road. So they don't have a 9-man crew. I believe they have a 3-man crew that covers that area, but it's on a priority basis when they respond to trash concerns.
And this is Alexandra Tulishka with VDOT. So I just want to follow up on that. The phone number to report anything VDOT road related is 1-800-4ROAD. Too easy to remember. FORROAD. Or if you want the numbers, is 367-7623. And like Cassie mentioned, we are not supportive of putting the trash can for general purpose use for everybody on the street for those reasons that they are not being monitored, emptied, and are going to be cause of additional trash issue. So that is just a little bit more to add to what Cassie said.
Thank you, Alexandra, sorry.
Thank you for that. Our next question is, can anything be done about the parking regulations themselves? There's a request to limit parking to one side or other measures taken on a road in Manassas. And we get that question quite a bit in terms of trying to limit parking on Burr Lanes, for example, Burr Road, for example, and other parts of this neighborhood. So if someone could speak to signage and limiting things like that, I would appreciate it.
And this is Alexandra again with VDOT. So in general, this is a public street that is fairly wide. It allows for parking on both sides and for 2 travel lanes that traffic can use to pass each other. As we know that there is shortage of parking in the communities, we would rather discourage limitation of parking on Burr Road because if you remove those vehicles, it will cause other problems. It will lead to the overcrowding and even more issues on with parking on the sites, as well as it could increase the speeding on the road because all of a sudden, you know, you have very, very wide roads that could encourage this type of behavior. And I can, yeah, that is pretty much what I would like to say.
Thank you, Alexandra, Supervisor Boddye. This is Richard Wyman, Prince William County Department of Transportation. Just to continue on that same thought, so one of the big differences between the city of Manassas and city of Manassas Park is they are fully incorporated cities. So what that means is they actually maintain and operate their own roads, unlike in Prince William County. In Prince William County, we essentially have private roads, which are maintained and operated by the property owners. And then we have the state maintained or roads, which are operated and maintained by VDOT. With that being said, there are certain times that we can look at restricting parking. Generally, this is when there's a safety or some kind of line of sight concern, and VDOT does that. And there's also something called the residential residential parking program, which the county runs, where we can start looking at restricting parking on roads that don't meet certain width requirements to ensure that emergency vehicles and the likes can maintain access. As Alexandra said, when we do this, we do often see an increase in speeds and those kind of concerns. And also we need roads to be narrow enough that parking is not accommodated in a good way on both sides of the road. Unfortunately, in this particular instance, these roads are sufficiently wide, so they don't actually qualify for the residential parking program. Thank you.
Our next, sorry, I had an audio issue there. Thank you for that, Mr. Wyman. So our next question is in regards to muffler and vehicle noise, which is something that I know a lot of folks in the district have been bringing up recently, especially when it comes to mufflers. Our next question is, are there ordinances for how loud a car muffler can be? We have an issue of a loud car disturbing neighborhoods around 4 a.m. in the morning. HOA is thinking of sending a letter to the resident. We definitely do encourage the HOA to do this. I know that the police department can address the situation briefly. We are dedicating an entire town hall to this actually, so I appreciate the question. We have a town hall coming up on March 11th, so a couple weeks from now in regards to this issue. I will be joined by State Senator Scott Servell, Delegate Danica Rome, and some of our partners from the police department and the state police as well. So in the interim, though, if the folks from police department and VDOT could address this issue, I'd appreciate it.
Currently, if it's a non-standard muffler and it's arbitrarily to the sound, then it can be cited. Starting March 1st, which is Monday, the police are barred by law, effective March 1st, from initiating a traffic stop based on a loud muffler.
Appreciate that. And as I said, we will be addressing this issue from a sort of holistic standard on both the local, the state, and the upper state level in our March 11th town hall. So we will definitely be posting that. It's already posted on our Facebook page and our social media platform. So please look out for our March 11th town hall if you're interested in this issue. Let's see, our next question regards to plans to add sidewalks to dangerous hill part of Smoketown Road. I think that's probably a good question for Mr. Weinman and for our VDOT partners. If there's any plans on the books to be adding more sidewalk infrastructure to Smoketown Road to help connect walking communities to this area.
Thank you, Supervisor Boddye. I assume this is referring to further down Smoketown Road as you go through the power lines and then down past Chancellor. We have looked at that. There's a lot of issues associated with that make this very expensive. As you go through the power lines there's some drainage issues and those kind of things that would require retaining walls and guardrail and all those kind of things, which are very, very expensive. And then as you go through the sort of the Lake Ridge neighborhood of Smoketown Road, past Cavalier and Chancellor through there's a lot of right-of-way issues. So if we were to add any sidewalks up there, it would actually probably mean taking some property from one of the sides or both sides of the road to accommodate that sidewalk. So as such, we have looked at it several times over the past few years, and every single time we looked at it to date, it's just been prohibitively expensive, and we don't currently have those kind of funds available to us. But we definitely will keep revisiting it and possibly looking for any opportunity to make any improvements like that. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Mr. Weinman. And I do have to take this brief moment to really give a shout out to Mr. Weinman, to our VDOT partners, and to our county transportation department. They do a lot of great work trying to connect more of our communities together through sidewalk projects, and they're very good and very adept at getting, local, state, and especially federal funds to help address these issues. We have a new sidewalk going in towards where my office is, over at Tackett's Mill. We have more sidewalks going in along the Old Bridge corridor. But I do agree that it's time to sort of begin looking more intensely at these underlying neighborhoods such as Smoketown, and the area in question as well. That being said, let's see if we can get to our next question here. Oh, and before I forget, in regards to the ordinance about mufflers, that is obviously, again, something that we're going to be looking at. Our town hall is coming up, and it is definitely something that we need to look at. But unfortunately, as Officer Sullivan said, there is some new legislation from the General Assembly that sort of changes the dynamic when it comes to addressing that issue. So one issue that was brought up in a recent letter that we received was in regards to a particular towing company that had some of their vehicles parked in this area. And the towed vehicles that they have, it seems like there's a local business that runs a repossession and towing company. And sometimes they would bring not only the trucks they use for their business, but also the towed vehicles and keep that stored on Burr Lane, for example. If folks could address that, I would appreciate that as well.
I can say that the police department were only notified earlier today in reference of it, and there are some other issues that have come up. And my plan is, once this meeting is over, to go speak to who we think is the owner of that tow truck.
Appreciate that. It's pretty straightforward. Let's see, other questions. Folks in the chat, both on YouTube, and I know we've also posted this on Facebook. If you want to jump over to YouTube, please feel free to reach out. Let's see. Mr. Wyman, while we are waiting for the next question to come in, I know that we've talked in the past about the benefits of having public parking on streets when it comes to looking at making sure folks are reducing their speeding. I know that there's also folks that are concerned about crime in the area, what have you. And I know that we've discussed that in the past, and you've been able to speak to it a little bit. Could you elaborate on that a little bit right now for the folks online?
Thank you, Supervisor Boddye. Yeah, so there are advantages and disadvantages to having public parking or parking on public streets. One of the advantages of it is it does create a narrowing sense of the road. These roads are residential roads. They're not designed to be, major thoroughfare roads. So that kind of parking and at the speeds that the roads are designed for. And I realize not everyone follows those speeds. They generally don't actually, they have an effect of slowing the road and don't create any safety issues. When you start pulling away that kind of parking, especially on wide roads like this that are 38, 40 feet wide, we definitely see an increase in speeds. And the roads in this neighborhood are all sort of just community roads. There are no through roads that connect any commercial entities like shopping centers or two major neighborhoods like Smoketown Road or something like that. And also there's no schools or anything like that in the back there. So all the traffic that is in that neighborhood is local traffic, and so there are some safety concerns obviously with roads. One of them is line of sight and children, because they're small and get between vehicles, and also line of sight coming out of a neighborhood. And when we look at this, we work with VDOT and we look at the line of sight so that when you pull up to entrance to a neighborhood, you can look left and right and that you can see sufficiently far back, and we tend to restrict around the corners for that. And also sometimes we may restrict parking near a playground or a specific facility like that where we know that they are at risk road users. Similarly, we also restrict parking near crosswalks, especially if they're mid-block crosswalks and that kind of thing. And anyone who parks and blocks a crosswalk or ADA ramp onto the road, that is a potential violation that can be reported to the police, again through that number to have that doesn't need to be posted. Similarly, blocking things like fire hydrants is the same case. So there are definitely pros and cons to it. One of the things we do look at is if we were to restrict parking on a road, where would those people need to move to? So, for example, if we were to block all the parking, on-street parking on Burr Lane and the rest of the neighborhood streets through there, the need for that parking does not just magically disappear, which would mean that those people would then need to find somewhere else to park. And of course, now we're talking about larger pedestrian distances that people have to walk to get to and from cars, which of course has potentially safety concerns. And as well, if you have to cross like major roads, like things like Smoketown Road and those kind of things. So all these factors come into play when we address parking issues and restricting it.
And this is Alexandra, and I wanted to add a little more that perhaps addition of street lights might be more beneficial, and that would be helpful, that additional, people and walking by the street and so forth feel safer, and that will aid in the general community feel being, well maintained and safer.
Street light. We have apparently there's a street light that's out at the end of Burr Lane right now, on Smoketown, one on Smoketown and Burr, and there's two. So there's one on the end of Burr Lane and one on Smoketown and Burr. And so folks are asking what the process is to report those street light outages, and how to address those concerns.
Thank you, Supervisor Boddye. So the street lights are maintained and operated through the county and are maintained and operated through a service agreement with Dominion and Novik. If you have a street light outage, the best thing to do is to reach out to the Department of Transportation here in Prince William County, not VDOT. If you do reach out to VDOT, they'll pass it on to us, or alternatively, you can reach out to the supervisor's office, and we can go ahead and have that looked at and repaired as quickly as possible. As I say, unfortunately, it is Novik or Dominion. They'll send out crews when they next have them available. And they're obviously a utility company, so if there's other major outages, they will obviously be prioritizing getting those households back up and lit. But as soon as they can, they will come out and repair that light. If you look on a pole, any street light pole, you will see numbers. They'll either be yellow or silver, and they'll run vertically down the pole. That is the pole number. The best thing you can do if you would like to report a street light out, or any other issue on a utility pole, is to go ahead and get that number and send it to us, or call us and give it to us. And that way we can give Novik or Dominion the exact pole number that they need to go out, and they know exactly what equipment is on that pole, so they know exactly what spare parts, etc., to bring along. If not, just a description of the nearest location to it, an address, an intersection, something like that, and we will go ahead and get that reported and as quickly as possible, and Dominion and Novik out there. Thank you. Oh, and the number to call if you'd like to report a street light outage, you can go ahead and call me directly on 703-792-8002. So that's 703-792-8002. That's my number at Prince William County Department of Transportation.
more lines, things of that nature to Burr Lane and to other parts of this community.
Supervisor Boddye, this is Paul Lynch. Were you asking the question about, was the county responsible for the cleanup of the Sullivan's farmhouse? You were breaking up. I didn't understand.
You could address that now. I'll put my full question in the chat here for everyone.
Okay, I see a question in the chat. This is Paul Lynch with Neighborhood Services. And I'm reading the question: was the county responsible for demolishing and cleaning up the old Sullivan's farmhouse that borders Rollingwood Village? The short answer is I would say we were the catalyst. We got voluntary compliance once we discovered that abandoned structures. So my staff worked diligently with the owners and the family, and we're eventually successful of having that blighted property removed from the community, which I think is a big improvement. Now, the second part of the question, we continue to have lots of pedestrian traffic down that easement that connects properties in front of the property on Minnieville Road, formerly the Sullivan's Furniture, currently a church. If that is in fact trespassing, that wouldn't be anything that Neighborhood Services could address, but possibly there's some other folks on the call that could talk to that.
I'm not familiar enough with the property. Is it signed with no trespassing notices?
That's a good question. There are some no trespassing signs on where the old Sullivan's Furniture store used to be in the parking lot, but I don't believe it's signed enough to be legitimately no trespassing. And I'm not sure if there is any desire to restrict that. You'd have to talk to the owners, the Sullivan family. We have that contact information somewhere in our office. If you wanted to call me, we could connect you.
The next question we have is, would it be possible to add traffic calming measures such as speed tables to Burr or painting a center line down Burr?
This is Alexandra. I can address the painting of center line. Burr Road is considered a subdivision street and local street that does not really qualify for painting of double yellow line. But the other part about the traffic calming measures, I'll refer to Richard as the county is administering the traffic calming program. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexandra and Jason. Yes, so traffic calming is in Prince William County is run through the residential traffic calming program, which is run through the county in conjunction with VDOT. Burr Lane, we've looked at it several times in the past to see if it qualifies. So the first thing that we need to do before we can proceed with any traffic calming measures such as speed tables is to conduct a speed study. And what we do is we put down counters for at least a 48-hour period, and we look at the 24-hour average speed. And in order to qualify for traffic calming measures, we look for any 24-hour period in that study period that has an average speed of at least 5 miles above the posted speed limit. Burr Lane is a local residential road, and all local residential roads, whether they're posted or not, have a speed limit of 25 miles per hour, unless otherwise posted. And every study that we've done on Burr Lane over the past decade or so has not managed to meet that threshold of a 24-hour average speed of 30 miles per hour. I realize this is very frustrating for people because we know that there are vehicles speeding on that road. I guarantee, or can almost guarantee, that there isn't a road in the county that doesn't have some vehicles speeding on their roads. But unfortunately, we have to look at the road holistically. The other issue we have with Burr Lane is the residential traffic calming program specifically looks at local residential roads, and Burr Lane is actually a connector road. What that means is a local residential road has direct access to driveways and on it, and Burr Lane is a collector road because it just has access to the associated neighborhoods. So unfortunately, there's not a lot that we can do traffic calming wise, but we are continually, standards are changing and ideas are changing. We're always open to suggestions, and we will continue to look at speeding on Burr Lane and the associated streets. One last thing to add, yellow center lines generally do not help with slowing down vehicles. In fact, if you look at the literature and the general understanding in the traffic and engineering community, installing yellow center lines on a road typically increases the average speed on that road from anywhere from 1 to 2 miles per hour. So the last thing that you actually would like to do on a road like Burr Lane is add a center line. We would not recommend it. Just another quick note, streetlights were talked about a little bit earlier by Alexandra. Burr Lane is relatively well lit. All the entrances to the communities are lit. And the street lighting program in Prince William County focuses on those streetlights. If the community would like to do additional lighting, they can do that on their own property. We can work with them to do that. Unfortunately, we do not have funds to install community lighting, but we are always happy to work with the community to try improve the safety, and lighting is obviously a key component of that. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Mr. Wyman. These are all really, really big issues, and I appreciate your commentary, especially on the traffic calming. I drive down Smoketown Road quite a bit, so I know that while there are some stop signs and some other things that keep people from going too fast, we know that some folks like to rush down as a cut through between Old Bridge and Minnieville or vice versa. So we see that quite a bit. Our next question is regards to a specific residence. 13456 Lock Loop seems to be abandoned, overgrown shrubs, grass, a package on the porch for a year. What can be done in regards to this residence and more generally to residences that seem as if they've been sort of abandoned by folks?
Hello again, this is Paul Lynch, Neighborhood Services. We would very much appreciate whoever left that message to contact our office, again, 703-792-7018. Hit number 1, that connects you with the intake staff. We certainly can look into that. I've copied that address down in some notes, but we would appreciate to associate a complaint, so if we have follow-up questions or somebody out there in the community we can have follow-up feedback with. Your complaints can be anonymous, but we do appreciate the contact in the community. We enforce the property maintenance code and neighborhood services, and also tall grass and weeds. Our action level for tall grass and weeds is 12 inches. So once we get to that level, we can send a mowing crew out. We do that seasonally. This could be our very first tall grass and weeds case of 2021. We can do the research and find out if there's in fact ownership of this property. Unfortunately, many times properties go dark if they're in the going back to the bank process, because the banks sort of hide the cheese and it's hard for us to know who owns them. But there are some telltale signs, and many times the banks have companies come in and winterize properties, and we can start getting contact that way. But we'll be happy to look at this, and this is what we do all over the county. So this is right in our wheelhouse.
Appreciate that, Mr. Lynch. Thank you for that. Yeah, we obviously, there are some residences that need a little love, and there's a difference between some folks that just frankly haven't gotten around to, and other folks that it seems like in this case where it sort of sat there for a year. So I appreciate your commentary on that. Our next question is in regards to cars idling in front of residences. So, you know, sometimes we do get folks that sort of just park outside of a residence and they keep their car idling for a while, and you know that it causes noise, causes exhaust, you know, and sometimes, you know, people sit out there for quite a while. It doesn't seem like they're really waiting for anyone. They're sort of sitting there. From a police department enforcement perspective, is this something that it's illegal if they idle for too long? Is it, and if it is it enforceable by our law enforcement partners?
No, there are no laws in the state of Virginia or Prince William County Code that has anything against idling. There is a statute where the local counties could create a law for buses that are idling, but nothing else that I've looked up. But if the vehicle is suspicious in other ways, please contact the non-emergency number, 703-792-6500, and we'll check on that as a suspicious vehicle, find out why they're outside of the residence, why are they there, and so forth, and see if there's any other criminal acts that are being conducted by those people. But just the pure act of idling is not against the law in Prince William County or the state of Virginia.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, no, I think that obviously if it gets to the point where someone's being a nuisance, if there's something suspicious, obviously report it, as was said. Our next question, to go back a little bit, just to clarify an earlier question in regards to adding sidewalk on a section of Burr Lane. The constituent was asking if there are plans at all on the books to add sidewalks to a section of Burr Lane between Minion and Vale. There's a stretch of the road that has none. So our folks at VDOT and our PW dot, if you guys could address it, I would appreciate it.
Thank you, Supervisor Boddye. This is the first time I'm aware of having a request for that little section of road that has missing sidewalk. That's something we can definitely look at. Again, you know, we have very limited funds to connect roads, and our priority, particularly in the older neighborhoods on the east side of the county, you know, Woodbridge, Occoquan District, Neabsco, Dale City, those kind of areas, is we have a lot of very heavily used stretches of road on busy road with missing connections of sidewalk. So we try prioritize those funding wise as opposed to smaller neighborhoods. However, you know, we are definitely always looking for sidewalk projects, and sometimes they can be relatively affordable and easy to implement, especially if there's curb and gutter and those kind of things, which is the case on these roads. So that is something we can definitely add to our list to go out and have a look at and see if it's something that's affordable and achievable to do.
Thank you for that, Mr. Wyman. Yeah, we acknowledge that, you know, there's quite a few areas in our district and throughout the county that there's, you know, sort of orphan sidewalks that sort of end and should pick up in other places. So we'll definitely look into that particular section of road. So we appreciate the constituent that brought that up. We have a follow-up question for Mr. Lynch in regards to that tall grass and weeds issue. Does that only apply to certain zoning land types? Does that apply to A1, for example, or are there different rules based on the zoning of the particular plot of land that we're talking about?
It's A1 does get a mulligan. So if you're agriculturally zoned, we wouldn't open a case because it wouldn't be founded. There's an exemption for A1. And then there's also some caveats on larger properties. We only cut back certain distances from roadways or houses or buildings of others. So if you had a 10-acre parcel and we're somehow not A1, we wouldn't mow 10 acres, but we'd mow 150 to 200 feet off the roadways and then 150 to 200 feet away from buildings, but not the whole property. It's really, tall grass and weeds is a safety, not a beautification concept. So we're trying to provide safety to the passing pedestrians or motorists or people that live next door to it.
Sure. And that obviously that's what we're speaking to more than anything else. We're looking for safety, making sure folks aren't getting sort of impeded by tall grass overflowing onto sidewalks, things of that nature. So I appreciate that, Mr. Lynch. The next question is a follow-up for Mr. Weinman. And it goes back to something you mentioned earlier in regards to Burr Road and roads in Manassas. The constituent mentioned that roads is the same size, and I think roads, that's an actual road called roads in Manassas. Roads is the same size as Burr Lane, but has parking restrictions, and Burr's does not. And I know you spoke to some of the differences between cities as well as the county and state roads. So if you could sort of narrow in on that and zero in, we'd appreciate it.
Thank you, Supervisor Boddye. Yeah, Rhodes Drive is actually in the county. It's not in so that's RODES Drive. So it is actually part of the county. So it's a VDOT road. So it's similar to Burr Lane in that it is similar in width, but there's several differences with Rhodes Drive. The big one is that there's a school down the back of Rhodes Drive. So most of those parking restrictions are actually in front of the school area, and that was I would speculate, because I don't know the exact direct history behind it, but I would imagine that was related to school and school buses, and also pickup and departure stacking space to allow those vehicles to move through there, because obviously during the releases and arrivals that probably clogs up pretty well with the buses and all the parents. And then the other couple of places, if I remember correctly, because I haven't been out to Rhodes Drive in a very long time, are line of sight issues. There's some curves on Rhodes Drive where there's some line of sight issues. So the parking has been restricted. I'm not aware of any of the residential parking restrictions that we're talked about earlier on Rhodes Drive, except for that area in front of the school where it's again for the school and the smooth operation of that peak traffic that you see around the release and arrivals. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you for that clarity, Mr. Weinman. Just so everyone's aware, we are at 7:45, so we only have time for a few more questions. But please keep them coming. They're all really good questions, and we like to narrow in on these really localized issues. Our next question is in regards to, so again, going back to the idea of different neighborhoods being treated, the perception of which differently. In other neighborhoods, cars that are parked in their reserved spots with expired tags can be left alone or given a warning from the HOA. In this particular neighborhood in Rollingwood Village, it seems like they are towed without warning. Is there a difference there? Is there something the HOA and those other neighbors are doing differently? Is there a sort of a different level of enforcement depending on what is understood about the area in particular? If folks could speak to that, I would appreciate it.
I'm not sure if this is supposed to be meant for the police or not, but if it's on private property, we don't enforce parking violations other than parking in a fire lane and handicap violations. So what the HOA does is what the HOA does on their private property, essentially. When we tow, you're going to be given either, unless it's blocking a hydrant and a fire department needs to get to that hydrant, or it's a case of blocking the actual lane of travel, we'll give you a 10-day notice. And as I spoke to earlier, generally that 10-day notice will actually work out to probably more like 20 to 30 days of notice before we tow the vehicle. So we'll always give plenty of notice before we tow a vehicle unless it's an emergency situation.
And this is Paul Lynch. I can just speak about neighborhood services. The handoff between the police and neighborhood services staff is basically the property line. So if cars are parked in their reserve spot in the front yard, then we would, because parking on the grass is not allowed, we would take care of that through ordinance. But if it's not on the real estate, it would not be a neighborhood services or zoning violation case.
Appreciate that, gentlemen. And yeah, to go back to it a little bit, we know that HOAs do sort of have between HOAs different rules in regards to reserve parking and how long they sort of tolerate folks sitting in reserved parking spaces that are not supposed to be there. I also know that this particular area has a couple of different HOAs that run through and around the Rollingbrook Village area. So it could be sort of an HOA to HOA issue. We also know that, again, with expired tags, that sort of depends on the situation there. And so I also would imagine that folks need to reach out to their HOAs to see how they are individually treating people sitting there in reserved spots for long periods of time. Our next question is in regards to farm animals, such as chickens, if they're allowed in Rollingwood Village. Now, recently the Board of Supervisors did vote to expand and sort of clarify some of the domestic fowl overlay districts and look at cattle and things of that nature in regard to expanding that as well. To my knowledge, we did not expand having farm animals into Rollingwood Village. There are very specific criteria that you need to fall into to be in that both the overlay and the cattle overlay. And as far as I know, we did not do that to Rollingwood Village. So I'm not sure if someone in the neighborhood has been seeing cows or chickens or any sort of farm animals there, but I don't think that we've done that. Mr. Lynch or anyone else, would you guys like to zero in on?
Well, I would just say that if you are seeing chickens running around in your neighborhood, I would give 703-792-7018 a call, and we can get that resolved, because I cannot imagine that Rollingwood Village is in the fowl overlay district.
Appreciate that. So we are now at around 7:49, 7:50. Before I sort of leave it off to folks to talk about their closing comments, I wanted to remind everyone that we always have a lot of upcoming events here in the Occoquan District office. So appreciate everyone tuning in for tonight. Coming up in the Occoquan District for our upcoming events, both us and community events, we have the Lake Ridge Occoquan and Cole Civic Association meeting this coming Thursday at 7:30 p.m. They will be talking about the open space master plan and a couple of other land use cases coming up. Again, that's this Thursday, 7:30 online. Again, that's Locapelt. We will be coming up again, as we mentioned it before, we have a vehicle noise town hall on March 11th from 6:30 until 8, such as tonight. Again, March 11th, 6:30 to 8, we will be joined by state legislators, members of law enforcement to talk about vehicle noise. We will also be having an Occoquan River Crossing public meeting with Mayor Porta on March 24th, 6:30 to 7:30. Our next one of our next town halls will be in regards to parks, and that'll be on April 8th, 6:30 to 8 o'clock. There will also be updates for that town hall about the Harbor Drive Wellness Park, which we are building in partnership with Kaiser Permanente, the Occoquan Greenway, which you know is a big greenway and a big project, especially for our Lake Ridge residents and more. And finally, we have a dumpster day. I believe that Kathy mentioned it, a dumpster day and community cleanup on April 10th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. The location for that is TBD. And you can look for all of our upcoming events on our calendar, which is occoq.org/events. And also go to our website, occoquandistrict.net. We have our events up there as well. That being said, it is now 7:51. If we could just go around the horn one more time and finish us out. Mr. Weinman, since I know you've been talking about quite a bit, if you don't mind starting us out with our closing remarks, I would appreciate it.
Thank you, Supervisor Boddye. Firstly, thank you everyone for coming tonight. Supervisor Boddye for putting this together. We always like engaging with the community on every opportunity we have. We don't know what we don't know, and this is the only way we find out where issues are that we can fix. If you have any transportation or traffic related issues on the county, please feel free to reach out to my office or my team. My direct number, again, my name is Richard Weinman, and my direct number is 703-792-8002. That's 703-792-8002. Or else you can reach out to the General Prince William County Department of Transportation number, which is 703-792-6825. So that's 703-792-6825. And with that, thank you everyone for having us tonight.
Thank you for that, Mr. Weinman, as always. And again, like he said, you know, we don't know what we don't know, and it looks like we even took some good takeaways from this town hall. So thank you, everyone. Next, Mr. Lynch, close us out on your end.
Again, thank you very much for inviting us to join in today. This is hopefully useful for the citizens that you serve, and also hopefully we can have a positive impact on this community. I just want to repeat a couple of ways to get in touch with us. Neighborhood services can be reached by email at nsd@pwcgov.org. That's nsd@pwcgov.org. So you can email your concern. That goes directly to our intake people, and we're really good at turning those back around. You should get some comment back from us within 24 hours or quicker. And then the way to do it on the telephone is, again, 703-792-7018. If you hit extension 1, that goes to intake. If you want to talk to Kathy Holtzlander, you can hit extension 2. And somebody in the office, most likely Kathy or Charisse, will pick up the phone and have a chat. Again, my direct dial number at my desk is 703-792. What is my number? I don't call myself that often. 6892. 6892, and I'm happy to talk to you. 10 minutes on the phone saves days of problems sometimes. So that's what we're here for, to serve you, and we look forward to doing that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lynch. And since you were just mentioned, Ms. Holtzlander, please feel free to leave your final remarks as well.
Thank you, Mr. Lynch. Thank you, Supervisor Boddye. Yeah, we look forward to working with the community. Thank you so much for including us. Oftentimes, neighborhood services is the place folks call when they have no idea who else to call. We're happy to help you, give you the guidance. We know a lot about, a little about a lot of things that happen within the county. So if we're not the agency that deals with the specific issue, we'll find the agency for you, rest assured. You can reach me directly at 703-792-6864, and I'd be happy to add you to my neighborhood leaders database. I send out updates constantly. If it's not about neighborhood services stuff, it's about the latest COVID-19 vaccine updates, anything that's pertinent to the community. So just send me, give me a call or send us a note. And when you can also, one more thing, in addition to Mr. Lynch's earlier comments, you can actually, if you have a concern you'd like to report, if you go to the county's website, type in neighborhood services, we have a report a concern link. Very easy to fill out that form. You could add all your information in there, and somebody in our intake staff will reach out to you within 24 hours. So very simple to do. Lots of ways to get in touch with us. Just let us know what you need. Thanks so much. Have a great evening, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kathy. And again, if you go to the pwcgov.org website and type in neighborhood services, it's actually one of the subsections on the front page as well. There's a lot of great resources there, and there's also resources to report, things that you might need. And Kathy does a great job updating and getting in contact with all of our neighborhood leaders. So if you want to step up and help keep this particular area of our community clean and pristine and help out, please step up. Officer Sullivan, you have the floor, sir.
Oh, I hope I'm not last but not least. I appreciate everybody for inviting me, and also everyone that attend. We're the police department. We're here 24/7. Rain, shine, snow, ice, we're here. If you guys have problems when it comes to parking violations, any other criminal matters, like we said, vehicles that need to be towed, abandoned vehicles, stuff like that, give us a call, 703-792-6500. We might not be out there right away, but we will show up. We always do, and we'll take care of the problem.
Appreciate that. And I think, Officer, you just mentioned basically the last 2 days worth of weather too. Rain, shine, sleet, hail, snow. It's been an interesting winter already. So thank you for that. Thank you for your service to our county. Alexandra, I see that you are putting in quite a few links for VDOT into the chat. If you'd like to add your final comments, we'd appreciate it.
Supervisor Boddye, thank you very much for organizing this town hall and for the opportunity to find out what are the issues the community is concerned with. I have added the link to the report. Any resident, any person, they can report issues related to the roads directly online. And this is https://my.vdot.virginia.gov. Or, as I mentioned before, at the 1-800-4-ROAD. That's the same. Customer service center for VDOT that is also open 24/7, rain or shine. And thank you for the opportunity again.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Alexandra, and we appreciate the specialized attention you give to our district and to Prince William County. You alongside our partners in our Prince William DOT. We really appreciate all your hard work in addressing these issues. It looks like our last two folks are Salah Salim and Mr. McDonald.
Hey, it's thanks again for having me the call in the chat today. Much like Richard said, we're here to help with any safety or transportation issues in the county. We have a good wealth of experience, but it allows us to address these issues, rather quickly, and we get the media any way possible, but to meet out on site, to go out and respond to the calls as soon as possible. So yeah, so an open line. Feel free to reach out with any concerns, and if we can't solve the problem, we'll find a way to to do something to make it better. So that's kind of our role in it.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much, and don't mind us running us out, Mr. McDonald. Go for it.
Thank you, Supervisor Boddye. This has been very interesting to listen to, and if anybody has any solid waste collection or recycling complaints, please feel free to call our office at 703-792-6570. And with that, I'll say good night to everybody. Thank you again.
Thank you so much. Again, that's our panel. Thank all of you for joining us tonight. We had quite the panel here, and we appreciate all the constituents that joined us tonight. You asked really good questions. We as county government are the very closest to the ground, and these are the issues that we love to dive into. As you can see, we have a lot of dedicated, passionate public and civil servants who are here to serve you and make sure that we're able to improve your quality of life and address these concerns that you have. Again, if you don't, you want to look back on this, or you have some friends or family or folks or neighbors that wanted to but couldn't join us, we will be posting this on our YouTube channel and on our website. So thank you so much again for joining us. Look forward to our future events, and be safe, mask up, spread out, everyone. Have a great night. Thank you so much.